सो गाइज, इंसान को अल्लाह ताला ने दो ऐसे इंस्टिंक्ट्स दिए हैं जिसकी मदद से इंसान 5500 साल पहले पहिए की इनोवेशन से लेके आज के मार्स रोवर तक पहुंच गया। जी हाँ, तो ये जो दो ट्रेट्स हैं इंसान के अंदर, वो है क्यूरोसिटी और क्रिएटिविटी, और इन सब चीज़ों को फ्यूल करती है आपकी मोटिवेशन टू सक्सेस। हम लोग आपकी पर्सनल लाइफ के बारे में जान सकें कि यार माशाल्लाह इतनी ज़्यादा सक्सेसेस एक के बाद एक, और क्या ऐसे ट्रेड्स हैं आप में, और क्या आपकी एडवाइस है हमारी यूथ के लिए? दे वांट टू नो, दे वांट टू लिसन टू दिस।
As you grow higher and higher in your positions, your presentation skills and your skills, interpersonal skills, and your soft skills, they start to become more important than your core technical skills. So there are two areas of management which have their roots in military. One is strategy and the other one is leadership. If you want to have sustainable motivation, it is always driven by three things. It is driven by a purpose. So there has to be a purpose. And the purpose cannot be short term. The purpose has to mean something. And it has to be driven by something which is for the greater good. अगर आप इस वक्त हमारा education system देखिए, we are producing tens of thousands of software engineers. I don't know आजकल what is the latest number, but I think आखिरी खबरें आने तक 30-40 हज़ार
60,000 per year according to Pasha's recent.
There is a reason दुनिया की सारी बड़ी कंपनीज डिग्रीज की रिक्वायरमेंट को they're letting go
narrow down
degrees requirement, and they're just saying कि यार you do not need to have a degree. और उसकी दो वजह हैं। पहली वजह ये कि आजकल जो स्किल है that's more important than a degree.
Assalamualaikum guys and welcome to another exciting episode of Youth on the Rise. उम्मीद है आप सब लोग खैरियत से होंगे। मैं हूं आपका होस्ट उमर चौधरी, और आज हम लोग बात करने वाले हैं इनोवेशन और सक्सेस के हवाले से, और उसके लिए बहुत ही ज़बरदस्त किस्म के सीनियर लीडर हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं। लेकिन उनकी तरफ चलने से पहले मैं आपको रिमाइंड कराता चलूँ कि डोंट फॉरगेट टू सब्सक्राइब टू अवर यूट्यूब चैनल and don't forget to sign up to dicecamp.com, which is your ultimate upskilling and job hunting platform. So guys, इंसान को अल्लाह ताला ने दो ऐसे इंस्टिंक्ट्स दिए हैं जिसकी मदद से इंसान 5500 साल पहले पहिए की इनोवेशन से लेके आज के मार्स रोवर तक पहुंच गया। जी हाँ, तो ये जो दो ट्रेट्स हैं इंसान के अंदर, वो है क्यूरोसिटी और क्रिएटिविटी, और इन सब चीज़ों को फ्यूल करती है आपकी मोटिवेशन टू सक्सेस। सो अगर हम बिजनेस की बात करें, कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर की बात करें, तो कंटिन्यूस इनोवेशन जो कंपनीज अडॉप्ट करती हैं, दे हैव बीन सीन एज ऑन द टॉप ऑफ देयर कंपटीशन। और इसी तरह अगर हम लोग प्रोफेशनल करियर की बात करें, तो जिन लोगों के अंदर ये इनोवेटिव अप्रोच वाला ट्रेड पाया जाता है, उनके अंदर हमने हमेशा देखा, उनको हमने सक्सेसफुल होते हुए देखा और अपने प्रोफेशन के टॉप पे देखा। लेकिन एक बात को याद रखना और मद्देनज़र रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि creativity alone is not innovation. Creativity with excellent execution until the desired results are achieved, that is innovation. और इन्हीं सब चीज़ों को बात करने के लिए और इन सब चीज़ों पे गौर व फिक्र करने के लिए जो सीनियर लीडर हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं, ही इज़ माशाल्लाह चीफ बिजनेस सर्विसेज ऑफिसर एंड सीनियर एग्जीक्यूटिव वाइस प्रेसिडेंट इन PTCL. प्लीज़ वेलकम Zarrar Khan. Assalamu alaikum, Zarrar. कैसे हैं?
Thank you so much, Umar, for having me.
Thank you
it's
for coming to the show.
To be a part of your podcast.
It's a pleasure for us as well, sir. Out of your busy schedule, mashallah, आप जितने busy होते हैं, I've seen your schedules. So we're really honored to have you, mashallah.
I was very keen to be a part of it because जो आपका focus area है podcast का, which is the youth of today. And I think this is the biggest opportunity that we have as a nation and as a state. I really wanted to contribute my insight, my knowledge, and my 2 cents in giving probably motivation and to a small extent direction to the youth of Pakistan.
Perfect, sir. और इसीलिए हमने आपको पर्सनल कैपेसिटी में आज के शो में बुलाया, ताकि हम लोग आपकी पर्सनल लाइफ के बारे में जान सकें कि यार माशाल्लाह इतनी ज़्यादा सक्सेसेस एक के बाद एक, और क्या ऐसे ट्रेड्स हैं आप में, और क्या आपकी एडवाइस है हमारी यूथ के लिए? दे वांट टू नो, दे वांट टू लिसन टू दिस। और उसके साथ साथ मुझे सर थोड़ा सा बताइएगा कि की माइलस्टोन्स ऑफ योर लाइफ, ऑफ योर प्रोफेशनल करियर विच एक्चुअली लेड यू टू हियर वेयर यू आर एट द मोमेंट, उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा प्लीज़ हमें बताइएगा।
if you see my career, and I'll also briefly talk about it. I think somebody when I was very young uh, told me that wherever you get in life professionally is an outcome of three things. Um, it is about 15% hard work, 15%, in fact, it was 10% competence, 20% hard work, and 70% circumstances.
Right.
Because wherever you are, a lot of time, luck plays a big role. And what I did, there was probably a little bit of competence, a little bit of hard work, but the timing of where you were at the right place at the right time, that also played a very big part. And I think that is something which is very intangible. And we as Pakistanis, as Muslims, as humans, we have to always be very mindful that in our success, it is not just going to be competence and hard work, even though without these two, you will be nowhere. I mean, I think these two are mandatory things. But ultimately, beyond these two, your circumstances play a very big role, and those circumstances need to be created. And they need to be created at times by perseverance, at times by creativity, and at times by luck and prayers. Um, for me, I am an electrical engineer. Um, I did my electrical engineering back in 1998 from Zarrar Khan Institute.
Okay.
Um, Again in 1998, as you remember, Pakistan had detonated the nuclear weapons. I think recently, हमने 28th May को we celebrated the 25 years of our detonation. But immediately after that, I think Pakistan was under sanctions.
Yeah.
And specifically in a lot of areas, we had been put under sanctions, and economically, we were in a tough spot. There were areas of opportunity, and then I started to see what I should do. And at a certain point in time, I was recommended to get into investment banking.
Okay.
And उस time पे, for an engineer, an electrical engineer, and this is era which is just prior to massive rollout of internet. So internet was not that accessible,
Yeah.
which it is right now. Even though internet was there since I think from 1994, as long as I remember using it. My first job was in investment banking.
Okay.
Within investment banking specifically, it was in corporate finance.
Okay.
And I think that was probably the best thing that had ever happened to me. And the reason for that was when we are engineer and we graduate, हमारा first focus होता है कि कोई हम engineering related job में चले जाए. At least people who were with me at that time, nobody wanted to get into investment banking. Even for me, I got in as a matter of circumstances, as I was telling you in the beginning, because there were not that many engineering jobs that were available in Pakistan because we were under sanctions and economically we were not doing that well post 28th May. But investment banking, specifically corporate finance, then it taught me a couple of things. So the first thing is that when you are there, you're always working on new things. So, one day you are looking at working on a project that is related to an IPP, financial close of an IPP. Tomorrow you will be working on doing an IPO for a certain business. The day after, you will be making either equity financing or debt financing proposal to get a financial close
Right.
for a concept. And what that allows you to do is that it really expands you to think and act on areas which are beyond your specialization. So I remember within my first year, I had no idea how power sector works. I had no idea how roads and bridges through public-private partnership, what are the technicalities behind it. But those years really equip you to really look at opportunities and challenges which not be your core prime area of expertise. And it allows you to build intuition that really it helped me personally a lot in my later life. Second, in investment banking, they really push you to do two things. work on Excel sheets, and really hone your skills to make and deliver presentations. And I think that sort of uh, knowledge and experience that I gained at that particular point in time helped me a lot later, because as you grow higher and higher in your positions, your presentation skills and your skills, interpersonal skills, and your soft skills, they start to become more important
Yeah.
than your core technical skills. And I think that I was lucky that I had gotten those skills. So I was in investment banking, working on different projects. I did that for a couple of years. Then I decided that whether I want to stick to investment banking or get back into engineering. I just felt that I need to go back into engineering. I spent 4 years doing engineering. I joined a technology firm. Then I joined another investment bank that was interested back in 2003 to get a mobile license in Pakistan. There were two new
Okay.
mobile licenses that were being given in Pakistan. So I joined an investment bank that had set up a consortium to bid for that license. Unfortunately, we could not get that license. However, that 1 year allowed me to work very closely at that time with Pakistan Telecom Authority and Ministry of Information Technology and Telecommunications in different meetings. So I was sort of picked up by Mobilink at that time.
Okay.
And Mobilink was interested in getting into the fixed wireless area. They
Okay.
were predominantly within the mobile sector at that time. So they wanted to have somebody who could advise them on the technical and the financial sides. Then I have 2003 end, I joined Mobilink, and then I was in Mobilink until 2008. Um, that was a very, very enriching area. That was, I think, if I can say, that was the boon years for telecommunications in Pakistan. We
Yes.
were, alhamdulillah, the sector was growing tremendously well. Pakistan was economically growing as well. 2008, I was headhunted by Saudi Telecom to go to Kuwait and deploy 3G network in Kuwait
Okay.
as the network director. I joined there as network director. 2011, I became the chief technology officer for Saudi Telecom operations in Kuwait, and I was there for until end of 2019.
Okay.
Those were again some amazing years of my life. I was very lucky. Kuwait is a very rich country, so people used to spend a lot of money on their telecommunication services and needs. So the operators in Kuwait were very profitable operators.
Right.
That allowed them to indulge in experiments in the latest technologies. And as a techie, this was very exciting and very fulfilling, because whether it was cloud, whether it is the latest 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G technologies, whether it was the new areas in artificial intelligence or machine learning or analytics. So I was able to experiment in those technologies when they were really cutting edge. 2019, after South Korea, we were the second country to launch large scale 5G
Okay.
with over 90% population coverage. That was amazing because there was no 5G in the world in April of 2019, and here we were outside of South Korea having 90% of population covered. Those were really exciting times. And after 5G, I think launch, I had been outside of Pakistan for over a decade. I just wanted to come back,
Right.
predominantly because of family reasons. And I got an opportunity to be a part of PTCL group. The role that I am in is a pure commercial role. I have responsibility of marketing, sales, and customer care for the entire non-consumer portfolio of PTCL and Ufone. This is again an exciting journey. It was like a beginning. Again, I did not have experience in those areas, even though I had done my MBA. But it was a very fulfilling journey. and I have been associated with PTCL since October of 2019. And I think during these 4 years, I think the sort of transformation PTCL and Pakistan has gone through,
MashaAllah.
I'm really, really honored and excited to be a part of it.
Brilliant, sir. All under your leadership.
I don't think so. I think at times it's not just leadership. Um, Leadership, if you see, and I think this is an area I have been quite interested in. So there are two areas of management which have their roots in military. One is strategy and the other one is leadership. So if you go into the basics of either strategy and leadership, you will find out that both these areas uh, of businesses have their roots in warfare.
Yeah.
And then you talk about leadership. I mean, it's a very fancy word. It's a very powerful word. Leadership is all about two things, or rather three things. Uh, the most important thing that is there about leadership is to create motivation.
Yes.
Because if there is motivation in a group of soldiers or a group of employees, then anything is possible.
Yes.
And the second two is direction and empowerment. So I think when you talk about leadership, leadership is not a sort of a panacea or a silver lining that if you have you can do anything. It's more of a catalyst that focuses more about motivation, enablement, and direction, and it is all about being a part of a group, and I'm really honored to be a part of a group that I call PTCL Business Solutions.
Brilliant, sir. Brilliant. So talking of motivation, जैसे आपने motivation की बात की, so what is your style? How do you inspire and motivate your team?
Yeah, okay, if you see motivation, how does motivation come? I mean, like it's something which is very important. How do you motivate people? Uh, the biggest examples of motivation, if you really want to see, is to create motivation when there is nothing in it for you personally. And you say the highest form of motivation is when you're doing something selflessly. There's nothing in it for you personally. And I don't know, whoever listens to this podcast, there is a poem by Lord Tennyson. It's called Charge of the Light Brigade. Um, I would really recommend you read that poem, Charge of the Light Brigade, and it's based on a real factual uh, incident that happened, where there was a group of 600 soldiers,
Right.
and they were asked to charge into an enemy position where it was certain they will die, and most of them did die. But while they were about to begin the charge, it was certain they will die. Every single soldier also knew that by doing this, nothing will be gained, neither personally, nor for the country, nor for anything else. It's even mentioned in the poem somewhere that it was the folly of the leadership at that time to do it. It served no purpose, no personal purpose, no national purpose. But still, those people did it, and they died.
Wow.
So the question would come: what motivated them to do it? They could have turned back.
Yeah.
And there is a line in that poem that probably some of you might have heard, and it's ours not to reason why, ours is but to do and die. So that's from that poem. So I think if you go beyond that, and if you read an article, that article is called The Anatomy of Courage. So courage and motivation, they are at times interlinked. What motivates a person, what motivates a team, and everything, if it is for personal gains, it's a very temporary motivation, because personal fulfillment will never be achieved.
Right.
If you want to have sustainable motivation, it is always driven by three things. it is driven by a purpose. So there has to be a purpose,
There
and the
has to be a
purpose
purpose.
cannot be short term. The purpose has to mean something, and it has to be driven by something which is for the greater good.
Yes.
So ultimately, for us as PTCL, we are the national carrier of Pakistan. 62% of PTCL is owned by the government of Pakistan. Two-thirds of our profits, they go into the government coffers, and they are used to build hospitals, and they are used to build roads, and they are used to provide education to the people. What we, myself and my team, at least what I talk about and what we mostly believe in as PTCL Business Solutions, is our efforts are for doing something good for Pakistan. The second thing is that what motivates you is that when you're making an effort, the effort is worth it. You have to make sure that the there is worth in it. It's not a futile effort.
Yeah.
A person is not making a presentation, or not he's not spending 10 hours in the office doing something that he doesn't believe in. That's very, very important. And the third part is, of course, there has to be fulfillment. A part of it can be personal fulfillment. You
Yeah.
might get promoted, you might get experience, you might grow in your career otherwise, you might have monetary benefits, and of course, greater fulfillment. So I think if you are able to create that sort of environment, which goes beyond short term and which goes for, as I told you in the beginning, the three areas, I think you can build sustainable motivation in teams.
Right. So, what are the values and principles that you follow as a leader that guides your leadership style?
Personally, yeah, I think the values that have to be there. The first one is trust. If there is no trust as a leader in your team, uh, everything else becomes futile. So I think the first thing that has to be built in a leader is a trust. People should be able to a great extent, trust you.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimate value is people trust you with their lives. But equally, or probably just a little less important, is people trust you with their time. Because when people work, they spend one-third of their life in the office, sometimes
Yes.
more. So trust is very, very important. The second big value that is there, which is important, is open communication.
Yeah.
Um, you
Transparency.
should be, yeah, not just transparency, but you should be there to get feedback, and feedback can be positive and negative or whatever. So there should be open channels of communications with anybody that you interact with. That's, I think, something which is very important. And the third thing is that you need to acknowledge people who are going above and beyond. I think that one particular value is something that there'll be people who will be slackers. There'll be
Yeah.
people who will do just enough, and then there'll be people who will go above and beyond. These are, I think, some of the key fundamental personal values, and the others are the ones that everybody talks about. So I don't think I need to delve into the details of that. But I think personally, I've seen in my life that these three values always help you
Beautiful.
grow personally and as a team.
That's very impressive. That's very impressive. So, can you come up with any example of any setbacks in life in your professional career and how you overcame that?
Yeah, again, why would it be KI overcame? I mean, so I think this is a question that a lot of time ask you at interviews. So there's a very typical interview question, apart from tell me your five strengths and tell me your five weaknesses and all those.
Yeah,
sort
the
of things.
purpose of the question is कि यार वो कहते हैं ना कि गिर कर उठना असल जो है ना वो कमाल है. तो our audience would like to see कि यार बंदा मतलब कोई सेटबैक आता है लाइफ में, देयर आर सो मेनी सेटबैक्स, नथिंग इज परफेक्ट इन लाइफ. तो उसको उसको कैसे ओवरकम करना है, कि क्या ऐसी मोटिवेशन लेनी है या क्या अपने आप को उस कंफर्ट जोन से बाहर निकालना है या जो भी करना है, सो यू कैन राइज अगेन. So if you had any such experiences in life, so that'll be very
Yeah,
inspiring.
there are many. So from very small to very large, and I don't आप think आप किसी एक बंदे से भी पूछेंगे, everybody will have those experiences. What is very very important is that there's a there's a very famous saying that you don't fail until you quit,
Yes.
right? So जो गिर के उठना होता है, that's a part of success. You cannot have a linear thing. So the important part at the end of the day is the only time you are going to fail is when you quit. And at times it's also very important कि गिर के कभी ना भी उठे ना, because sometimes you have to quit.
Yeah.
It's a natural phenomena. कई दफा the direction you have taken is not right. Sometimes the direction is right, but the timing is not right. Sometimes the direction is right and the timing is right, but you do not have the resources. So it's okay to quit. I mean, why would it be so important कि आपने नहीं quit करना? So there is no one quick call, and I don't want to say यार come up with a rosy sort of an analogy कि मैंने इतना ज़बरदस्त ये काम किया था. I think in our own lives we all have those moments, and I think it's more important that we look inside us, and each one of your listeners or viewers finds that answer himself and gets that to motivate, rather than listen to my amazing story or whatever.
बिल्कुल. तो कहते हैं ना कि एक अंदर की दुनिया और एक बाहर की दुनिया, तो अपने अंदर झांकें, you will find the answer yourself. That's what Zarrar is trying to emphasize on. So Zarrar, tell me about your work-life balance. I know your schedule is super busy, or you're always traveling, and with this role and responsibilities. So how do you balance your work-life balance, and especially your family time, your health, and your mashallah, secrets of your fitness?
There's no fitness, and um, I would not. So it's very tricky. I think it's tricky. There are always at times it's all about prioritizing and sacrificing.
Yeah.
So balance is very difficult. So either you will say कि यार I prioritize one or the others, and at times you do. At times there would be something very very important, but I will take a holiday because I would like to go out with my family. So my family would take priority over something that is work related. A lot of times I would miss out something at the personal front because there was a very pressing work lead. I think it's not a linear balance that you always balance. I think it's at times you need to prioritize, and at times you need to prioritize work while making sure that you do not go to one extreme. The second thing which I think is at times important is how much you're enjoying your work. If you're really enjoying your work, if you're really enjoying what you're doing because the outcome gives you satisfaction and fulfillment, then you draw joy from your work.
Yeah.
The same way you draw joy from other things in life, whether pursuing your hobby, you're spending time. If you're not drawing joy from your work, then you try to do as little of it as possible. So I think whether it is health, whether it is family life, whether it is your personal self, spending time with yourself or your hobbies, or your professional commitments, you need to focus on giving each one of these things time, and at times that happens at the expense of something else.
Yes.
But that's okay as long as you're making sure that you are focusing every now and then on everything.
तो हम लोग अपनी बिजनेस ज़बान पे कहते हैं ना अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट. तो अच्छा, what I've always experienced is कि when it comes to giving time to the family, I always prefer quality over quantity. The lesser you spend, but it should be a quality time. You should be fully, your phone should be shut down, and you should be giving time to your family. And also very beautifully you said कि when you are passionate about your work, तो फिर you really enjoy it. और हमने डाइस कैम्प के अंदर एक इसी तरह का एक मार्स ब्रिक्स टेस्ट से इंस्पायर होकर करियर टेस्ट उसके ऊपर एक होस्ट किया विच इज़ फ्री ऑफ चार्ज. बहुत लोग उसको मार्शल अटैम्प्ट कर रहे हैं. और इट टेल्स यू अबाउट इट आस्क्स यू अबाउट योर पर्सनल योर ओन सेल्फ एंड देन टेल्स यू द पर्सनालिटी टाइप यू हैव एंड उसके बाद जो उसका एक्चुअल आउटपुट है विच इज़ कि आपको किस प्रोफेशन में जाना चाहिए. यू कैन बी नेचुरली सूटेबल फॉर दीज प्रोफेशंस. वो जनरल प्रोफेशंस बताता था. हमने थोड़ी सी R&D की, थोड़ा सा मशीन लर्निंग डाला उसके अंदर, हमने उसको टेक प्रोफेशंस के अंदर मैप कर दिया. सो व्हेन यू टेक दैट टेस्ट इट टेल्स यू कि यू कैन बी अ गुड डाटा साइंटिस्ट और यू कैन बी अ गुड 3D आर्टिस्ट मे बी और समथिंग. तो इट ब्रिंग्स वेरी सरप्राइजिंग रिजल्ट्स. मैंने खुद भी अटैम्प्ट किया तो मेरा तो अल्लाह का शुक्र है ये निकला कि शुड बी इनटू व्हाट आई एम. तो
Yeah,
परफेक्ट.
I think in that I'll tell you. So I'll tell you two things. So the first one is, um, how did I become an engineer was because of my marks in FSC. So if you're in pre-medical, you'll get into medicine.
Yeah.
If you're in pre-engineering, you would become 80s में यही था कि you would become an engineer. आपको पता है कोटा सिस्टम, मेरिट सिस्टम होता था. So depending, there were not that many private sector universities at that time. I think GIK was one of the earliest ones जो कि electrical engineering में थी. So based on your marks, based on your domicile, you will end up somewhere. एक बड़ा एक फिक्स किस्म का एक फोकस एरिया होता था. I started to look into it. I think it was in 2017. I was in Kuwait. In fact, 2018. I was invited by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India.
Okay.
So Institute of Chartered Accountants of India का जो Middle East chapter था, they invited me because our CFO, I think it was our finance director, he was an Indian.
Okay.
So I was working a lot on the AI and 5G and all those sort of things. So they invited me in one of their regional forums to speak on fourth industrial revolution.
Right.
And it was a very, very exciting event because they had CFOs and finance directors and chartered accountants from, I think, all over the Middle East. And I was explaining to them that, in the fourth industrial revolution, when automation would come in and machines would start to do a lot of work. So one of the first jobs that is going to be automated is the job of an accountant. So, and the jobs that are the most difficult to get automated are those of poets and those of psychologists and those sort of jobs. And so I think what is very important for us is that if you look and ask anybody who's doing his A levels or FSC right now that what is your ambition, almost 70% of the people will have no idea what their ambition is.
Yes.
And I think they would talk about something that probably their parents have done or something that inspires them, and it can be I want to become a cricketer or a soldier or something that my dad does or whatever. But what we have realized is that there are traits which are built into your DNA that define how you think, whether the front of your brain or your back of your brain is more active, left side or right side. Also the circumstances. So I think one of the things that is Pakistanis we have to do, and this is one area that, I don't want to talk about PTCL a lot, but we are trying to do is to create models that at the end, where by the time you get into high school, based on how you react to when you're drawing versus when you're doing mathematics or when you're doing linguistics, should tell you that what is the area you should pursue, because the competitor in the fourth industrial revolution is going to be machines. So for you to be productive, you have to be able to do some things that you can do better than the machines, otherwise nobody will give you the job.
Yes.
Machine can do it faster, cheaper. What that individual area needs to be, I think that is something that requires a lot of thought, and you can't just randomly start to go.
Perfect. Zabardast, sir. Very, very inspiring. So, would you like to talk about any specific project which has been very close to your heart and which brought some significant impact to the employer, to the company, or to the community?
Yeah, I don't want to talk a lot about the employer part in everything. I think, yeah, I would say one thing. Sometimes as a person, you have a desire to do something very new. I remember back in 2017, 5G started to come up.
Yeah.
And they said that by 2020, 5G will got launched in the world. And the operations that I had been a part of, so I was never involved in something which was cutting edge, where we could say that I was a part of this particular thing when it was really cutting edge, and we were a part of when it was launched, in anything that I had done at that life. So I was very keen to be a part of the 5G cutting edge thing, and 6G would have come by 2030, and that would have been a way off time. So back in 2017, I really started to work on 5G. Saying that, look, whenever 5G comes, I wanted to be the first in the world to launch it. Uh, I think that was a quite a tough undertaking, uh, because there was business case element. It had to make sense. The technology had to be mature. People had to want it. So I think between 2017 June until 2019 April, where I remember between us and South Korea, there was a whole push on whether it would be Kuwait that would launch first or whether it would be South Korea that would launch first. Those were really exciting time, and being a part of a team and leading that particular team that was delivering. I think that was something which personally fulfilled us. That put Kuwait on the map. That okay, that was the most modern network in the world. Professionally, I got a lot of exposure from it. Being a Pakistani, outside of Europe and United States and Japan, Hong Kong, and South Korea, being able to do that. So I think that was a really really exciting time. And sometimes even if I think of those times when looking at technology challenges, um, challenges related to business case and finance and all those things. So I think I can say I'm quite proud of
Perfect.
what me and my team did for the 5G launch.
It's like a dream come true.
It was. I think it's one of those things that if you can get involved in one of those things, it's a very big thing, and I'm very happy that we did that.
परफेक्ट. सो यंगस्टर्स को क्या एडवाइस देंगे, कौन से ऐसे स्किल्स हैं जिस पे उनको ज़्यादा फोकस करना चाहिए, और आपको क्या लगता है कि वेयर डू द लैक, यू नो, इन योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस यू हैव बीन डूइंग अ लॉट ऑफ हायरिंग, एंड व्हाट शॉर्ट कमिंग्स यू सी जिस पे वर्क करने की ज़रूरत है हमारी यूथ को.
Um, okay, so I think the first thing जो कि बहुत ज़रूरी है पाकिस्तान के लिए, पाकिस्तान का सबसे बड़ा एसेट क्या है? डू यू नो कि पाकिस्तान का हमारा सबसे बड़ा एसेट क्या है इस वक्त? What
आई
is it?
थिंक यूथ, अगर उसको लेवरेज किया जाए तो.
जी, so इसको हम इसकी there's a term that is being used. It's called demographic dividend. So demographic dividend ये है कि अभी से लेकर 2050 तक या 2047 तक या 2050 तक, जो हमारी size of youth है, which is the people who are between 25 and 40, that is very very big. And as opposed to अगर आप चाइना देख लीजिए, यूरोप देख लीजिए, वेस्ट को जनरली उस पे youth size is shrinking, and the average age is shifting. So जो हमारी demographic dividend है, which means जो कि हमारी peak productivity पे जो हमारी इस वक्त लोग हैं, that is the biggest asset that we have. Now the biggest challenge that we have is that particular youth at this particular time is they do not have a direction, and B, they do not have the skills. ये बहुत बड़ा problem, and skills are not just tech skills, yeah. I mean, it can be any skill.
Life skills, soft skills.
नहीं, I'm talking about productive skills, but not tech-related skills.
Right, yeah.
You know, painting can be a skill.
Oh, yeah, it's a skill.
You know, plumbing can be a skill.
Yes.
Masonry, woodcraft can be a skill.
Yes.
So I'm not just talking about software skills, but any skills. ये बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज हो गया है, बिकॉज अगर आप इस वक्त हमारा एजुकेशन सिस्टम देखिए, वी आर प्रोड्यूसिंग टेंस ऑफ थाउजेंड्स ऑफ सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स. आई थिंक आई डोंट नो आजकल व्हाट इज द लेटेस्ट नंबर, बट आई थिंक आखिरी खबरें आने तक 30-40 हज़ार
60,000 per year according to Pasha's recent survey.
तो वो आई थिंक सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स और साइंटिस्ट और वो सारा, हाउ मेनी ऑफ देम, एंड देन वी से कि यार ये जो लोग निकल रहे हैं उसमें से अगर उसकी एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी देख ले, आप पाशा की टॉप 15 कंपनीज ले रहे, हाउ मेनी ऑफ देम out of those 60,000 will pass the initial test of the top 15 companies of Pasha?
Hardly 5%. Yeah.
So that means कि आप उसको आसान कर दें, बहुत आसान कर दें, maybe 20-30% पे आ जाएगा.
Yeah.
So that would mean कि 70% of our software graduates do not possess the skill. उनके पास एक डिग्री है जो कि कागज़ है. उन इंजीनियर्स का क्या फ़ायदा होगा? उन्हें कौन नौकरी देगा? अगर उनको कोई नौकरी भी देगा तो वो फिर पहले उन्हें सिखाएगा, वो खुद क्या कर सकते हैं. सो आई थिंक पहला इसी तरीके से अगर आप आ जाइए, इस वक्त जापान के अंदर वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट डेफिसिट, ट्रेड डेफिसिट जो कि स्किल्स होती हैं,
ह्यूमन कैपिटल डेफिसिट,
वो इलेक्ट्रिशियंस का है, प्लम्बर्स का है. पाकिस्तान में कितने सर्टिफाइड प्लम्बर्स निकल रहे हैं जो कि वेस्ट में या आजकल आपको पता है देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ टॉक ऑफ वी आर इमिग्रेटिंग. हाउ मेनी पीपल आर गेटिंग इमिग्रेशंस बेस्ड ऑन देयर इलेक्ट्रिशियन स्किल्स और प्लम्बिंग स्किल्स? पाकिस्तान से देयर ऑलमोस्ट जीरो. Why? Because we do not even have those certifications जो कि recognize हो सके to
international
an
grade
extent और वो जाए. So उसका वो बंदा कि यार एक बंदा जो है जिसने नहीं बैचलर्स की ली, he's not an engineer, but he's a very very good electrician जिसके पास 5 साल का electrician का experience है. He can contribute to the society whether in Pakistan or outside Pakistan equally well. So I think हमारा जो सबसे बड़ा ड्रॉबैक है वो ये कि हम अपने एसेट को यूटिलाइज नहीं कर रहे. एंड आई थिंक माई सजेशन टू द यूथ इज गोइंग टू बी कि देयर इज़ अ रीज़न दुनिया की सारी बड़ी कंपनीज डिग्रीज की रिक्वायरमेंट को they are letting go
narrow
of the
down
degrees
कर रही है.
requirement, and they're just saying कि यार you do not need to have a degree. और उसकी दो वजह हैं. पहली वजह ये कि आजकल जो स्किल है that's more important than a degree. पाकिस्तान के अंदर हमारे कुछ सोशल प्रेशर्स भी हैं कि यार बच्चे ने यार बैचलर्स भी नहीं किया हुआ, बट आई थिंक इट इज़ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट वी स्टार्ट टू फोकस ऑन स्किल्स एंड देन वी स्टार्ट टू फोकस ऑन राइट स्किल्स एंड वी आल्सो स्टार्ट टू फोकस ऑन नॉन टेक्नोलॉजी स्किल्स. हर बंदे ने सॉफ्टवेयर नहीं बनना. हमारा सरप्राइजिंगली एक बड़ा एक ये है कि हर फ्रीलांसर, जब हम फ्रीलांसर की बात करते हैं वो सॉफ्टवेयर से ही रिलेटेड होता है. देखिए फ्रीलांसर्स तो कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. यू कैन बी अ फ्रीलांसर्स जो कि हाथ से का जो शादी का कार्ड पेंट कर सके. अगर आप यूएस के अंदर यूएस के अंदर दे स्टिल प्रेफर के हैंड रिटन वेडिंग कार्ड्स,
हैंडीक्राफ्ट्स,
हैंडमेड वेडिंग कार्ड्स, एंड ईच वेडिंग कार्ड इज अबाउट $30. अगर कोई ये बंदा है जो कि एक फ्रीलांसर बन के इस किस्म का काम कर लेता है, यार वुडवर्क बहुत अच्छा कर लेता है. Etsy, there is this website called Etsy. Etsy के ऊपर आप डाल सकते हैं. It's massive. So any skills that we are able to do, and I think that would require at the national level, at personal level, कि जो हमारा demographic dividend है उसको हमने skills पे लेके आना है. Today manufacturing के अंदर हमारे पास कोई skills नहीं है. हमारे पास इस वक्त लेथ मशीन ऑपरेटर्स क्वालिटी के कोई नहीं है. सीएनसी मिलिंग मशीन्स, अगर सीएनसी मिलिंग मशीन्स हम कोई उसको प्रोग्राम ही नहीं कर सकते, चाइनीज क्यों आके लगाएंगे? यहाँ पे रिसोर्सेज ही नहीं है पाकिस्तान. सो आई थिंक वी नीड टू हैव अ नेशनल स्ट्रैटेजी. अभी वी आर इन 2023. हमारे पास 27 साल और हैं. इस 27 साल, दिस इज द डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड दैट वी हैव। 2050 के बाद ये डिविडेंड खत्म हो जाएगा। ये जो आज की यूथ है वो कल की ओल्ड एज में जाएंगे।
and they're the ticking time bomb actually.
वो जब ओल्ड एज में जाएंगे उनको सपोर्ट करना,
इकोनॉमी पे कितना बड़ा बर्डन है।
सो वी रियली नीड टू मेक श्योर कि अगले 27 साल हमारे लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है to get to a point where from a developing country we get into at least a cusp of being a developed
Yeah,
country.
very beautifully said, sir. और actually डाइस का तो actually vision भी यही है, तो this topic which we're talking about is very close to my heart कि मेरे अंदाजे के मुताबिक जो अभी जो लास्ट सेंसस थे उसके मुताबिक इट्स 60% बेसिकली जो आपकी पॉपुलेशन है दैट इज़ यूथ विच इज़ अराउंड क्या कहते हैं नॉट 60%, इट्स 29%, लेकिन आपका 6 करोड़ 40 लाख तकरीबन बन जाते हैं यूथ पॉपुलेशन विच इज़ 15 to 29 ईयर्स ओल्ड जो टेक्निकली यूथ की डेफिनेशन है उसके मुताबिक। तो उसमें से मैंने जब कैलकुलेशन की तो अगर 6 लाख IT प्रोफेशनल्स अकॉर्डिंग टू पाशा, तो वेयर रेस्ट ऑफ द पीपल, ये तो 1% से भी कम है। देन आई कैलकुलेटेड कि यार अगर 5% IT प्रोफेशनल्स हम लोग प्रोड्यूस कर लें यूथ पॉपुलेशन में से, वो 25 लाख बन जाते हैं, 25-30 लाख प्रोफेशनल्स जो कि पाकिस्तान में ही रहें, ब्रेन ड्रेन ना हो और पाकिस्तान में रह के IT एक्सपोर्ट्स पे फोकस करते हैं, और लेट्स से कि वो सालाना $12,000 सिर्फ कमाते हैं IT एक्सपोर्ट्स में। सो दैट इज़ अ वूपिंग $26 बिलियन पर एनम। कैन यू बिलीव दैट? और पाकिस्तान की जो टोटल अभी जो एक्सपोर्ट्स हैं इंक्लूडिंग द एग्रीकल्चर, सर्जिकल इक्विपमेंट्स, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, वो 25.6 बिलियन डॉलर्स हैं। सो सारी की सारी एक्सपोर्ट्स को सिर्फ एक IT सेक्टर जो है वो बीट कर सकता है सिर्फ 5% यूथ को लेवरेज करने पे।
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to be very cognizant कि पाकिस्तान को एक बहुत एडवांटेज है। वो एडवांटेज ये है कि जो इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी, आपने IT की बात की, सो आई टॉक अबाउट इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी की जो प्रोडक्टिविटी है, इट हैज़ बिकम लोकेशन एग्नोस्टिक। You don't have to be in Silicon Valley to work for a Silicon Valley company.
Remote is the new normal.
It is remote, and now I think this is such a big thing. So ये जो आपका view है कि यार if somebody is earning $1,000 a month, which by any standard is very low, I think this is very achievable. But उस पे it's not just about कि बच्चों को तैयार करिए। देखिए, what we really have to do is that we have to work at 3 levels. पहली चीज़ ये है कि हम में से people like ourselves, they need to go to Silicon Valley, they need to go to European Union, they need to go to China or Japan. EU और US में तो चले English है. China is a huge market. They have their own IT needs. Probably they can outsource. Agar if US can outsource, at that time having, let's say, 400 million population, so China could also outsource. We need to be making sure कि actually requirements क्या है.
Yeah.
Second चीज़ जहाँ पे आके हम बहुत ज़्यादा मार खा जाते हैं ना, that is quality control.
Yeah.
How would somebody know कि यार if somebody is qualified in Pakistan, he possesses he possesses the skills, because जैसे आपने अभी बताया कि हमारी जो institutes हैं उनकी जो outcome है, let's say कि कोई GPA 3.5 का बच्चा या बच्ची है, एक यूनिवर्सिटी में 3.5 means totally different from another university.
Yes.
And our universities are not global scale where they would say कि यार हार्वर्ड कहाँ पे आती है और मिनेसोटा यूनिवर्सिटी कहाँ पे आती है. I think these sort of things, if that is there, and the government has a really focused approach, where we set up a program where it is said कि एक हमारी outreach होनी शुरू हो, जो कि I think in the last 2 years I have seen some good things happening, but a lot more needs to be done. And we open it up, not just कि it has to be companies which will get exports and everything, but it has to be individuals that are getting hired.
Yeah.
So AWS should not make an office in Pakistan if they don't want to, but they can hire people in Pakistan who directly work for AWS.
Yes.
and we make it simple for them, and we do that. And I think if we are able to do it correctly, and if we are able to work with these organizations, and what you guys are doing, and if the employability increases, if somebody is earning $4,000 in Pakistan in dollar while living with their parents in their house, why would they probably want to go and earn
Yeah.
$4,000, or even for that matter $6,000 or $8,000
Yes.
in US, because they will have higher expenses.
Yeah.
So I think this is an area where at a national level, I personally believe it's not just the companies that needs to focus on export, but what we also need to do is that we need to empower our kids, um, and then make our kids directly employable remotely while they're in Pakistan,
Yes.
for any small, medium, or large enterprise anywhere in the world.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. And there are so many examples क्योंकि हमारा तो youth से काफ़ी ताल्लुक पड़ता रहता है. So people are making good money in Pakistan, mashallah. They are doing remote jobs for Silicon Valley based companies full time while sitting in Pakistan with their family, and they are getting paid quite high. Alhamdulillah. So this is a good sign. Looking forward, inshallah. So बस last but not the least, मुझे थोड़ा सा ये बताइएगा कि कोई CSR activity which was very close to your heart in your previous organizations or current organization जो कि conduct की और उसका एक बहुत बड़ा impact आया हो.
You're very keen on बड़ा, कि कोई बड़ा चाहिए.
बड़े लोगों से ऐसे ही सवाल होते हैं ना सर.
I think I personally believe a lot of small things are much better than one big thing.
Right.
So when you run after, जब आप छक्कों के पीछे भागते हैं ना, so then you get a failure.
Yeah.
Smaller things are easy. I
Yes.
think
कतरा कतरा करके
that's,
समंदर बनता है.
that's something which is easy. Not if you keep aside CSR for the companies, let's say वो तो होती रहती है. One of the things that I am very keen about, and I'm working in my individual capacities, I'm working with a lot of startups.
अच्छा.
I'm working with startups from the perspective, क्योंकि a lot of times what happens is कि startups दो तरह के लोग बनाते हैं. Either a startup is made by a person who has spent a significant amount of time in the market. They have identified a gap in the market, and then they start their own company to fulfill their gap.
Yeah.
This is how a lot of the startups in the US are formed, because you just don't make a startup for the heck of making a startup. In Pakistan, I have noticed people make startups because it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
You don't get a job or you get something, इसी के मैं startup बनाता हूँ. And a lot of times जो कि startup में एक हमें problem हो रहा है, वो ये हो रहा है कि हमारी startup scale नहीं हो रही. You make a startup, you get some money from your parents, you make a product, you get into an incubation center, you make a product. बस पोस्ट इंक्यूबेशन स्केल बहुत ज़्यादा हमारा नहीं हो रहा. एंड जहाँ पे हमें स्केल नज़र भी आ रहा होता है, वो ये हो रहा होता है कि in a lot of cases the unit economics are not making any sense. And I think अगर आप पिछले US से 15 सालों को अगर आप निकाल दो ना, you take out this fad of startups and everything, most of the startups in the US, they used to reach unit economics very quickly. आप Google को देख लो यार, Google was not deficit run the way Uber was deficit run. And I think Pakistan में we have the scale. We are a population of 240 million people. It's a massive scale.
Yes.
The number of smartphones in Pakistan have crossed, I think, 120 million now. That's a massive. ये मुल्कों की आबादी से ज़्यादा ये नंबर है. And we are one of the largest consumer markets in the world. हमारा PKR में purchasing power parity में बहुत significant GDP है. जो हम startups बना रहे हैं, वो startups की unit economics के ऊपर काम नहीं हो रहा. Whereas I strongly believe कि there is a big focus area जहाँ पे आप unit economics पे काम करें. And there are so many startups, I don't want to take names, but very, very simple startups doing very simple things like making envelopes. You know, there's this one particular startup that just makes customized, beautiful customized envelope in which you can give money to people on birthdays or weddings and all things. Doing very well. There are other startups that are doing those things. So as a CSR, what I try to do is that people come and then they want to do a startup, and then I sit with them and then we decide, okay, what is the problem that they have to solve, and then slowly try to nudge them in a direction where they're actually going to solve a problem, and then either with time or with money fund them to get to a point where at least they start to do that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Don't have a massive success story जो कि आपने पूछी थी, लेकिन the purpose is not to create a massive success story. I think the purpose is just to make a very honest effort in
Yes.
solving a problem in Pakistan, and baki leave it to fate and to God to see what the ultimate outcome becomes.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming to the show, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was indeed a very pleasant conversation that I had with you, and I wish you and your efforts the best of luck. I
Jazakallah.
am myself available. You can search me on LinkedIn, Zarrar Khan. You can even put my LinkedIn.
Yeah, definitely
over
will
there
do.
on my Twitter, even though
Yeah.
I'm not that active on Twitter, but every now and then I do read it. Any startup that needs any help, either in my personal capacity or my professional capacity, I'm always there. And I wish you and your podcast a lot of success, and I'm very happy to be
Jazakallah.
one of the earliest participants of
Thank
it.
you very much, sir. We are
You're
honored.
welcome.
So guys, जैसे ज़रार ने बताया कि if you would like to ask any questions or any comments you have, please do contact us. You can reach out to us on Dicecamp or onto our YouTube channel. एंड उम्मीद है कि आज की एपिसोड आपको बहुत अच्छी लगी होगी और बड़ी ज़बरदस्त किस्म की इनसाइट्स फ्रॉम अ सक्सेसफुल लीडर आपको सुनने को मिली और सीखने को बहुत सारी बातें मिली. सो उम्मीद करता हूँ कि आपका दिन अच्छा गुजरे, खैरियत से गुजरे. अपना ख़ास ख्याल रखिएगा, अपने इर्द गिर्द के लोगों का ख़ास ख्याल रखिएगा. फ़ी अमान अल्लाह.